What a 24 hours for the Seattle Seahawks. Not only did they beat the Cleveland Browns, not only did the San Francisco 49ers lose, that put the Seahawks in first place of the NFC West, and then they traded for Leonard Williams. Yes, defensive lineman Leonard Williams. The way that the Seahawks' last couple days have gone is almost to perfection for them, right? At the end of the day, knock on wood, but the Seahawks had no major injuries coming out of Sunday. They didn't have anybody, taken on the cart. They didn't have any added injury reports after the game. They came out healthy, which is probably the first time that's happened this year. There was a couple bang-ups during the game, but they came out healthy. They got first place in the NFC West, and then they said, we lost Nwosu the other week. Let's just go make a move. Now, everybody started by, well, not everybody, depends who you ask. There was a lot of, what an overpay on Twitter. You might say that in the comments too. What an overpay. They sent a second rounder. Okay. Couple things here. And this video is going to be a lot of just, ranting. I had a video yesterday, World Series is on, breaking news type of thing a couple hours ago, and I just have to talk about it. But the Seahawks probably know better than we do. John Schneider, Pete Carroll, and the team probably has this down to a T a little better than us. And realistically, a lot of people want to say, I go through Twitter a lot, obviously, that because we got the Broncos third-round pick in a trade this draft, not like the Russell Wilson trade this draft, we got a third-round pick. We have an additional third-round pick. Some people say you can't say that relates to this trade, and I say it directly relates to this trade because the Seahawks traded their second-round pick and their fifth-round pick for the following year. Now, they traded that second-round pick for two reasons. One, because they believe in Leonard Williams. If they didn't, they would never give up that pick. Number two is, there's actually three reasons. Number two is because they have that third-round pick, and Pete Carroll said that plays a role. If you think about what our second-round pick is, it's probably going to be in the later half of the second round. And as of right now, I know the Broncos are playing better, but it's probably looking on the lower half of the third round. And it's between whoever's is worse, like the Saints or Broncos, which also plays another role because both those teams one of them might have a bad year or might finish with a low record where it might be in the bottom 15 while also be in the upper 15. So we're talking about a pick that might only be 10 to 15 picks away. Yeah, that plays a role. And number three is, the Giants are essentially paying the rest of the $10 million contract for Leonard Williams for the season. And that's why we gave up the second-round pick to agree to that. So they're pretty much paying the money while also they're basically paying for draft comp, getting him, to a new team because they're not going to extend him. And the Seahawks pay a second-round pick for that. And that's totally fine. Why we actually right now, he's going to get paid the veteran minimum with 10 weeks left, which is $600,000. Because he got the rest of his money from the Giants. But with us, he's going to essentially make $600,000. So he's not an effect on your salary cap right now. And then if he does well, he's 29 years old, you probably are going to be the first pickings. If he does well and he fits in your system, you'll probably be the first pickings for his contract coming up. And if it's a good price, he's probably going to go with you because you're the team you traded for. And if you see what you like and he's a good locker room guy and he makes an impact, you're probably going to stick with him. And like I said, they're hard to come around. Especially defensive tackles. I know he's listed a lot of places on the internet as a defensive end, but he's technically a defensive tackle. You can do some flip-flopping probably throughout the season here. We're going to have a lot going on our line with Draymond Jones, Jaron Reed, and Leonard Williams. Explain to me, you know how hard it is to find these type of talents in the NFL? It's very hard. It's not like it's just known. The market's really hard. The Seahawks have not been successful at getting it very often. So now you're going to be looking at a defensive line with the mixing of the pass rushing of guys like Boye Mafe and Devin Witherspoon and Jamal Adams. And then you have three guys up front, Draymond Jones and Leonard Williams and Jaron Reed. And you saw a guy like Darrell Taylor the other day that got a sack. People are making plays for the Seahawks. And I thought it was a no-brainer, to be honest. Now, they will wait to extend him. There's no trade and we signed him type of thing. That's what the Seahawks do. They did it with Diggs. They did it with Brown. They did it with sometimes they do re-sign people. And so that's just what they're going to do. But it's a big move. I mean, at the end of the day, you beef up the interior. Draymond Jones and Jaron Reed have been playing pretty good. The Seahawks pass rush has not been bad. But with Nwosu being out, this is the bolstering up the lineup. And sometimes you have to give up something to do that. So I don't understand why people are so against sometimes giving up things for a guy when you need to. This is not, I saw a comment on Twitter. This is not the NBA. You don't just, get a really good player for nothing. You have to pay for talent in the NFL. And second round picks are valuable, yes, but they are going to give that up for a talent like Leonard Williams that might make a really big difference. Now, I'm not guaranteeing anything, but he might make a huge difference on this roster. And maybe making a huge difference can take your defense to a whole nother level, which the defense is already one of the top 5, 6, or 7 defenses in the NFL, the way they're playing right now. Now, on top of that, Leonard Williams ranks 19th among defensive tackles in pass rush win rate this year. So that defensive tackles, and that never hurts for us to get. And then it's going to look at some numbers here. In the last 3 years, 18 sacks since 2020 is 8th among defensive tackles. 64 pressures since 2020 is 7th among defensive tackles. And this year, his 77.2 pass rush grade, PFF grade, is 11th among defensive tackles in the NFL. So essentially, you're getting a top 10 guy, or a really close to top 10 guy for a second and fifth. Why not? So for those complaining, don't, please, because this is not something you complain about. This is something that you should be excited about. We should be excited that we have a GM and a head coach and an organization that takes chances. We've taken some chances that have failed, some that have worked. Sometimes things like Jamal Adams. Unfortunately, he got hurt a couple times. When he's on the field, it's freaking worked really well. He's just gotten hurt a couple times. But we've made, we get guys in our system like Diggs that ends up doing well. And, you end up getting guys like Percy Harvin, who didn't work out maybe for some part of it because of injury, but they went and made a splash before the season to get something going, and they win a Super Bowl. You have to make sometimes moves that, you risk a little bit to see what can happen. Yeah, he's 29 and he's not signed. But if our defensive line becomes dominant and we go from the 7th best defense to the 5th or 4th, you're talking about potentially winning a division. And the offense is not playing good. So let's keep that in mind. I'm not saying they're playing bad, but they're not playing good, which means we're 5-2, first in the division, second in the entire NFC West, or in the NFC, sorry, other than the Eagles at 7-1. We're number 2 in the NFC. And that's with our offense not playing very good. So once that offense starts to click a little bit, which they will, and when that offensive line gets healthy, which they will, remember, we've been on a carousel of backup offensive linemen. We had a 41-year-old Jason Peters play last week. Once that offense gets going, and if that defense goes from the top 6-7 to 3-4, good luck. Here's some notes, though. Now, this isn't long-term what you want to see for roster building. Totally understand. And don't mind me if I look at the screen. It's not the ideal thing because, what's the right way to put it? Long-term, obviously, that's a day one. Second round's a day one draft pick, right? Day 1 and 2 draft picks are not always good to give up long-term. We've seen that before. But once again, on the other end, it could be a great thing for us. So you never know. Nearing 30 could be a problem, could not be. He hasn't been as productive as he was a few years ago. Pro Bowler in 2016. But like I said, last 3 years, he's essentially on all categories you want to talk about for a defensive tackle. He is in the top 10. So not playing as good is also in quotes there. He's impactful. That's a big thing. And we talked about this. It is hard to find impactful defensive linemen. And it's hard to find them for cheap money for 1 year. I know it's only this year you're paying him $600,000. You gave up the second round pick, but it's not expensive money right now. And it's hard to just find them in general, especially when you already have a good defense and you have a lower salary cap. situation, but we did it. So, as always, be thankful that our team does this. I would say at the end of the day, for this year, it's a great move. It's like 80-20, a good move for this year. Moving forward, it could be a 60-40, a 50-50. It all depends on if he resigns. I'm not going to see, he's not like, super duper duper elite. So we're not bringing in like Aaron Donald here and we're going to go win the Super Bowl because of it. But he really does make a huge impact. But if you have him just for these couple months and then he leaves, losing that second round pick might hurt a little more. If he ends up re-signing and it doesn't cost as much as, it doesn't cost that bad in the offseason, all of a sudden you're looking at it and say, I'm fine with giving up that second and fifth. So all things considered, I think it's exciting. It's a second and a fifth round pick. We went from, we're 5-2. We went from almost losing to the Browns to winning that game in the last 30 seconds. We're 5-2, first in the division. Trade for Leonard Williams. I'm happy. I don't think you can say much more than good for us for making a move when it matters. So I'm pumped. I'm going to keep my expectations. I'm not going to keep them like ridiculously high, but I'm going to keep them high because his defense is already good, and you're just adding a good impact piece. And there's not much more you could ask for in the NFL. So thank you, Seahawks, again. And we'll be back doing PFF breakdowns this week. Like and subscribe if you like these videos. Love y'all.